It was a quiet Tuesday night when Sarah first noticed the eyes. Not her own reflection in the rain-fogged window of her cramped apartment, but something else, something watching from the balcony next door. She was alone in the city, fresh from an exhausting coast-to-coast move, the kind that leaves you drained to the bone and questioning every life choice. The building was old, a relic from the 70s with peeling paint and creaking floors, but the rent was cheap, and in a place like Eldridge Hollow, cheap was a luxury. She'd chosen it for the view, or what passed for one, a narrow alley lined with brick walls and the occasional overflowing garbage bins. But that night, as thunder rumbled like a distant growl, she saw it, a quick movement, a silhouette, too still to be casual, peering through the neighbor's blinds. Sarah froze, her coffee mug halfway to her lips. Her heart racing, she approached the glass, the steam blurring her breath. Was it a trick of the light? The storm playing with shadows? She blinked and disappeared. Only the empty porch, the wind whipping a forgotten potted plant. She laughed, a nervous bark that echoed in the silence. "Control yourself, Sarah," she murmured, turning away. But as she did, a chill ran down her spine, not from the scratching, but from the certainty that whatever had been there had seen her too. The next morning she met him, Mr. Harlan, the neighbor to the right. He was in his early 60s perhaps, with a face like aged leather and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He was out front, rummaging through the mailbox, when Sarah came down the stairs with her trash bag. "Fresh blood, huh?" he called, his voice deep but welcoming. She nodded, forcing a smile. Small talk followed. The weather, horrible. The building, charming in its decay. The neighborhood, mostly quiet. He invited her for coffee sometime, a neighborly gesture she politely declined. As she walked away, she felt his gaze linger, heavy as the dampness in the air. That night, the eyes returned, brighter this time, almost luminous in the darkness. Sarah's phone vibrated, a message from her sister at home. "Settling in? Don't forget to lock up. Cities are full of lunatics." She laughed, but the sound died in her throat. The silhouette was back, closer now, pressed against the glass as if trying to merge with the pain. She slammed the blinds shut, her pulse racing. Was it Harlan? No, it couldn't be. The figure was too tall, too angular. And those eyes, they weren't human. They gleamed with a hunger that churned her stomach. By dawn, the paranoia had taken deep root. She avoided the window, made tea instead of coffee, and turned on loud music to drown out the silence. But curiosity is a cruel master. Peeking through a crack in the curtains, she saw a shadow creeping, disappearing through the neighbor's door. Her door. The one she had locked twice. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, soft, deliberate. Then a knock. Soft at first, then insistent. "Sarah, it's Harlan. Are you all right in there?" She didn't answer. She wouldn't answer, but as the knock faded, replaced by the dripping of the faucet she swore she'd fixed, a whisper seeped through the pipes. "Look closer next time." She straightened suddenly, all her nerves on fire. The voice didn't come from the hallway. It was inside her head. Or was it? Her eyes waited, always waiting. And now they knew her name. Welcome to another chilling story on the channel, where everyday life transforms into your worst nightmare. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss the posts that keep you up at night. Today's story, it's called Don't Look at Your Neighbor After Watching This Video. And let me tell you, it will make you question every shadow in your hallway. Imagine this. A sleepy town where houses are crammed too close together. Secrets seep through the walls like damp rot, and your next-door neighbor may not be who or what you think. We're diving into a world of whispers on the walls, eyes that follow you home, and a creeping dread that begins with a simple glance over the fence. Our story follows Sarah Klein, a 28-year-old graphic designer who has just escaped the grind of urban life for the supposed peace of Eldridge Hollow, a forgotten spot on the map with cracked sidewalks and flickering streetlights. She's running from a bad breakup, a dead-end job, and the kind of loneliness that gnaws at her edges. But Eldridge isn't the fresh start she wants. It's a trap disguised as tranquility. From the moment she unpacks her boxes, the neighborhood watches. Not with curiosity, but with intent. The old lady across the street waving with great excitement, the kids on the block disappearing at dusk, and Harlan, the sharp-tongued retiree next door, whose smile never reaches his eyes. Sarah ignores it at first. New city nerves, right? But as the days blend together, the unease simmers. Strange noises at night, scratching like fingernails on wood, murmurs that sound like her name, and always those eyes, peeking from windows, lurking in mirrors, daring her to look back. What makes this story different? It's not just ghosts or monsters. It's the slow crumbling of normalcy. That friendly chat over the fence. Hyde's teeth. The borrowed sugar cup. It's poisoned with something darker, inspired by real urban legends. Those whispered tales of mimetic neighbors who steal faces or cursed apartments where the walls remember too much. I've woven a narrative that will have you checking your locks and avoiding eye contact with anyone who says good morning a little too sweetly. Think Stephen King meets Black Mirror with a touch of that primal fear we all bury. What if the person living inches from you isn't really living? Before we dive in, I need your help to make this community even more chilling. Leave a comment below. What city are you watching this from? New York? Tokyo? Some sleepy suburb like Eldridge? Share. Let's map where the chills are hitting hardest. And if you've ever had a neighbor who gave you real shivers, tell us about it in the comments. Your stories fuel the fire. Okay, lights low, volume up, let's begin. Sarah's first week in Eldridge Hollow unfolded like a hazy dream. Beautiful in its haze, but disorienting enough to make you question your direction. The apartment building, nicknamed Whispering Pines by some long-forgotten landlord with a flair for irony, crouched on the edge of town like an abandoned thought. Its facade was ivy-covered brick, the kind that hid water stains and worse, and the air always carried a faint, musty smell mixed with something sweeter, like overripe fruit left in the sun. Sarah had signed the lease on impulse, drawn in by the online photos that promised cozy charm, and ignoring the fine print about occasional structural quirks. Now, unpacking amid stacks of boxes like cardboard tombs, she felt the weight of loneliness settle like dust on her shoulders. The balcony hook lingered in her mind, a splinter she couldn't pull out. She attributed it to exhaustion. 18 hours on the road, fueled by gas station coffee and audiobooks about serial killers. Ironic, in retrospect, but sleep eluded her that first night. The bed an uneven battlefield where each creak of the springs echoed like footsteps. Around 2 a.m., she heard it, a soft thud from the wall adjacent to Harlan's apartment, then another, rhythmic, almost deliberate, like someone testing the boundary between his world and hers. She pressed her ear against the cold, slightly damp plaster and whispered, "Hello?" Silence answered, thick and mocking. When the thuds began again, faster now, she pulled the pillow over her head and wished for dawn to arrive. The morning brought no relief. Sunlight filtered through dirty blinds in beams that danced with particles of dust, illuminating the chaos of her half-unpacked life. Sarah brewed coffee in a coffee maker that gurgled as if it resented the task, the aroma clashing with the building's persistent mold. She stepped out onto the balcony for air, gripping the railing as if it could anchor her. Below, the alley stretched out like a scar. Trash bags tumbled against overflowing bins. Across the way, in the window of apartment 2B, Mrs. Ellis, the elderly tenant Harlan had mentioned, watched. Her face was a map of wrinkles, her eyes magnified by thick glasses into something owl-like and still. Sarah waved shyly. Mrs. Ellis didn't wave back. Instead, her lips moved, forming words Sarah couldn't hear. A greeting, a warning. The old woman vanished abruptly, curtains closing like jaws. Shaking it off, Sarah went out to do some shopping. Eldridge Hollow's main street was a time capsule, a diner with Formica counters, a hardware store selling rusty tools, and a library that smelled of yellowed pages and regret. Locals waved as they passed, their smiles polite but inquisitive, as if assessing fresh meat. At the market, a cashier with tattooed knuckles scanned her items, a carton of eggs, bread, and a bottle of cheap wine, and commented, "New in town? Harlan's building, huh? Keep an eye out at night. They get talkative." Sarah laughed, assuming it was a joke about noisy neighbors. The cashier's eyes said otherwise. Back home, the thumps had evolved into scratches. Weak at first, like a cat stuck to the walls, then insistent, etching patterns she could almost feel vibrating through the floorboards. She banged on the shared wall with the handle of a broom, her voice sharp. "Hey, stop that." The scratches stopped. Deadly silence. Then, from the flue above the stove, a sigh. Long, uneven, almost relieved. Sarah's skin crawled. She turned the knobs, filling the kitchen with gas flames that hissed like laughter. That night Harlan knocked again. This time she answered, damn it with the peephole. He was there in a faded plaid shirt, holding a plate wrapped in aluminum foil. "Peace offering," he said, a wide grin. "Apple pie, my mother's recipe, guaranteed to chase away the blues." The aroma rose, cinnamon and sugar masking something more earthy, like freshly dug soil. Against her better judgment, Sarah invited him in. They sat at the wobbly kitchen table, the pie warm and flaky, though she only pinched the edges. Harlan told stories, tales of the founding of Eldridge, a mill town built on whispers of gold that turned into ghosts when the veins dried up. "People here keep to themselves," he said, his fork pausing in midair. "But we're family once you're in. Thieves united." Her eyes, however, my God, those eyes. They would drift to the walls when he thought she wasn't looking, as if listening. When he left, promising coffee tomorrow, Sarah locked the door and wedged a chair under the doorknob. The scratches they returned at midnight, now synchronized with her heartbeat. She huddled under blankets, phone clutched like a talisman, scrolling through old photos of friends who looked like strangers. A notification beeped, a local news alert. Missing hiker found in the woods, cause of death undetermined. The attached photo showed dense pine trees, shadows writhing like fingers, the edges of Eldridge Hollow. She dismissed it, but sleep brought dreams of eyes in the branches, watching, waiting. On the third day, the building seemed alive. Doors creaked open on their own, spilling drafts that carried faint echoes, snippets of conversation and voices she didn't recognize. "She's here." "Not yet." "Soon." Sarah avoided the hallway mirror, convinced that her reflection delayed a heartbeat behind her movements. At the lunch counter, the waitress, a thin woman named Dot, swiped through the menu with a wink. "I heard you're next to Harlan. Lucky girl. He's the welcoming committee." Sarah probed gently. Strange noises? Weird vibes? Dot's laugh was a bark. "Honey, this city is full of vibes. Just don't peek where you shouldn't." Encouraged, Sarah knocked on Harlan's door that afternoon. No answer. She tried the doorknob. Locked. Through the inverted peephole, she glimpsed his living room. Dark, filled with crocheted tablecloths and faded photos of stern faces. A shadow moved in the corner, tall and elongated. She recoiled, her heart pounding. It was nothing. It had to be. But as she retreated to her apartment, a floorboard groaned behind her. Not on her side, but on his, followed by a low, damp chuckle. Dusk painted the alley in bruised purple hues. Sarah lit candles, a burst of energy, she told herself, and sketched idly, her freelance work demanding distraction. The pencil scratched the paper, mirroring the walls. Unintentionally, her lines formed eyes, almond-shaped, irises swirling like storm clouds. She tore the page, crumpling it, but the image burned. Around 11 p.m., the whispers began. Not scratches now, but words, seeping through the plaster like smoke. "Sarah, look, see us." She covered her ears with her hands, rocking in bed. The voice multiplied, a chorus from every duct, every crack. Join, or watch, forever. Desperate, she grabbed her keys, fleeing to the street. Eldridge slept under a starry duvet, but the air buzzed with invisible tension. She walked blocks, her breath ragged in the cold, until the glow of the library beckoned. Inside, among dusty piles, she hunted for local history, anything about whispering pines. A tome of local folklore yielded fragments. In 1892, settlers reported echo people, doppelgangers born of isolation, stealing glances to steal souls. Folklore, obviously, but the illustrations, eyes peering from windows, neighbors with smiles that were too wide. Exhausted, she dragged herself home at 2 a.m., the building looming like a sentinel. Her door was ajar. Impossible, she'd locked it. Inside, the pie plate was empty on the counter, crumbs arranged in a deliberate spiral. And on the mirror, fogged despite the heat, 2 words: "Look closer." She didn't sleep. Dawn crept in, gray and accusatory. Harlan's door opened across the hall. He emerged whistling, eyes meeting hers with feigned surprise. "Bad night? The coffee's ready." Sarah nodded silently, following him inside. His apartment mirrored hers. Same layout, same blemishes, but wrong. Photos on the walls showed families with their faces edited out, blurred at the edges. The coffee steamed, black as ink. He poured, smiling. To the neighbors. As she sipped, the heat spread, unnatural, accumulating in her veins. The room tilted. Whispers rose, not from the walls now, but from him. From the lines of his face, the wrinkles around eyes that were no longer wrinkling. They lengthened, pupils dilating into emptiness. "Welcome home, Sarah," Harlan said, his voice fracturing into harmony. "We were expecting it." She dropped the mug, shards scattering like teeth. Rushing to the door, she slammed it shut behind her, barricading herself in her apartment. The building groaned in response, walls contracting like lungs. Outside, tires screeched. A delivery van? No. The shadows in the alley coalesced, forming figures that mimicked her posture, her panic. Eyes everywhere. Windows, reflections. The very air. This wasn't nerves. Eldridge Hollow wasn't a town. It was a labyrinth of mirrors, and she had walked through the glass. The neighbors weren't people. They were echoes, hungry for the real, and now they smelled of her. But as the first rays pierced the blinds, a new sound cut through the terror. A child's laughter from downstairs. Innocent. Calling. Sarah froze. Was it a trap or salvation? She had to know, before the eyes claimed her forever. Sarah's hand trembled on the doorknob, the metal cold as a scalpel against her palm. The child's laughter bubbled from below, light and melodious. A siren's call in the symphony of creaks and sighs that was whispering pines. It pulled her in, that sound, pure, untouched by the poison of the night. She looked in the mirror, half expecting her reflection to attack, but it stared back, dull and obedient. "Just check," she whispered to herself, her voice hoarse with unspoken screams. "One floor below, then you call the police, or your sister, anyone." The plan was fragile, stitched together from frayed nerves, but action beat paralysis. She slipped into the hallway, the carpet muffling her steps like an accomplice. Harlan's door remained closed, a slab of silence, but she felt his presence behind it, watching, always watching. The staircase was a throat of shadows, a slippery handrail with what might be condensation or sweat from invisible hands. The laughter echoed again, closer now, accompanied by the drumming of small feet. Sarah descended, holding her breath, emerging on the second floor where doors lined up like judgmental sentinels. The door to apartment 2C was slightly ajar, a sliver of yellow light spilling out like spilled egg yolk. Laughter poured from within, mixed with a woman's cooing, soft, maternal. Sarah hesitated, her knuckles hovering. Push, knock, run. The whispers from above poked at her temples. Don't interfere. But curiosity, that old viper, won. She pushed the door open. Inside, the apartment flourished in domestic warmth. A small kitchen lit by a single lamp, Formica countertops littered with crayons and half-eaten toast. A boy, no older than 6, knelt on the linoleum, stacking blocks into a rickety tower. His mother, presumably, hovered nearby, stirring oats on the stove. She was in her early 30s, her hair tied in a messy bun, her face round and flushed. "Timmy, watch out now," she said, her voice honeyed. The boy laughed, toppling his creation with a dramatic flourish. Sarah cleared her throat. "Hi, sorry to intrude. I'm Sarah from upstairs. I heard the noise. I thought maybe." She stopped awkwardly, the bitter lie in her mouth. The woman turned, her spoon pausing mid-turn. Her eyes, oh God, those eyes, widened weakly, then softened in welcome. "No problem. I'm Lena. Come, sit down. The oats are fresh." Timmy smiled at Sarah, toothless and cherubic, extending a blue block. "Want to build? It's a castle for the watchers." Sarah's stomach clenched. "Observers?" She perched on a stool, accepting the notepad to buy time. Lena laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a breeze. "Children and their imaginations. He means the stars, peeking out the window at night." But her gaze drifted to the shutters tightly closed, and Sarah caught it, a tremor in her hand as she poured the bowl. Steam rose, carrying oats and something metallic. No, imagination again. They talked superficially. Timmy's school, homeschooling, for safety. Lena's husband, away on business. Building quirks, leaky faucets, thin walls. But subterranean currents pulled. Lena's questions too sharp. Did you sleep well? No bad dreams? Timmy's drawings on the refrigerator depicting stick figures with oversized eyes surrounding a lonely girl. Is that you? Sarah asked, her voice thin. Timmy nodded vigorously. The new friend. They like new friends. Lena silenced him gently, but her smile stretched, her lips pale. An hour slipped away in that cocoon of normalcy, or what passed for it. Sarah relaxed slowly, the warmth melting away her paranoia. Maybe Eldridge was just eccentric. Small towns breed oddities, right? As she stood to leave, Lena pressed a Tupperware of cookies into her hands. For Harlan, he loves these. The name landed like a stone. Sarah nodded, shoving the discomfort into her pocket. Back in her apartment, she devoured the cookies. Chocolate chip cookies, gooey perfection, washing them down with water that tasted slightly rusty. The sugar rush brought clarity, or so she thought. She texted her sister, "Weird town, but okay. Met neighbors. Boy is cute." Reply, "Good. Stay safe. Love you." Simple. Grounding. But nightfall scratched back the light. Scratching began again, weaker, as if mocking her breath. Whispers too. Lena. Knows. Sarah straightened suddenly, her pulse thundering. Knows what? She went over the visit. The trembling, the drawings, Timmy's observers. Grabbing her phone's flashlight, she searched the apartment. Under the bed, dust bunnies, no eyes. In the closet, hangers swinging like nooses. Behind from the refrigerator, cobwebs veiling a loose board. There, tucked into the crack, a photo, yellowed, edges curled. It showed a family, man, woman, boy. But the woman's face was Lena's, younger, and next to her, Sarah. Except it wasn't. The features were hers, but the eyes, empty sockets, crudely scratched with pen. Horror bloomed coldly in her chest. She dropped the photo, recoiling as the board opened on its own. Dust came out, and with it a small object, a medallion, tarnished silver. Inside, twin portraits, Lena and a girl who could be her twin, engraved on the back. Eternal echoes, 1998, the year Sarah was born. Coincidence? Her mind screamed yes, but her instinct revolted. Stolen identity? Long-lost relative? Or worse, the echo people from the library book. Doppelgangers weaving into lives like threads in a noose. Terrified, she stuffed the locket into her pocket, barricading the refrigerator with boxes. Sleep was a lost cause. Instead, she paced back and forth, her mind racing through possibilities. At dawn, a knock, not from Harlan, but from Lena. "Just checking on you, dear. Timmy drew something for you." Sarah opened the door a crack, peeking out. Lena held a folded piece of paper, a serene smile, but her eyes lingered too long on Sarah's face. Tracing, memorizing. He says the observers are excited. Sarah took the drawing, a rough sketch of the building, windows full of eyes, and in the center, two figures, herself and another, holding hands, faces melting into one. "Thank you," she murmured, closing the door quickly. The day dragged on in feverish research. Sarah's laptop buzzed, pulling up forums about Eldridge Hollow, threads about missing tenants, lying mirrors, a 2015 Reddit post from a woman called Echo Lost. "My neighbor looks like me, talks like me, but when she smiles, I see teeth that aren't mine. I left town last night. Don't look back." Comments piled up. "Too much gaslighting? Sounds like schizophrenia." But one reply sent shivers down her spine. "It's the Hollow. They take what they see." Encouraged, Sarah went to the library again, demanding microfilm of rentals from 1998. The librarian, a hunched man with ink-stained fingers, complied without question. Reels spun, rental contracts, evictions. There, Whispering Pines, Unit 3A, hers. Tenant Lena Klein, occupation artist, emergency contact, self, Klein. Sarah's maiden name, her mother's name, nausea rose. She fled to the diner, corner booth, black coffee. Dot slipped in from the opposite side, uninvited. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Or worse, Harlan's basement." Sarah spilled fragments, the photo, the locket, the name. Dot's face hardened. "Listen, girl, Eldridge isn't right. It started with the mill closing. People got desperate, started borrowing. Faces, lives. Harlan is the worst. Collects like stamps. Lena? She was you once. Or close enough. She fought. But the building, It's hungry. It feeds on stairs. Sarah laughed fragilely. You're kidding me. Dot's eyes said no. Peek through his window tonight, full moon. See for yourself. Twilight fell like a shroud. Sarah returned, fortified with pepper spray and resolve. The alley was empty, the moon silvering the bricks. The light from Harlan's porch flickered, a moth to a flame. She crept closer, climbing a trash can to height, her heart like a war drum. Through the glass, Harlan, his back to her, singing to something. Shadows writhed on the floor, half-human shapes, shifting faces. Lena's, Timmy's, hers from the photo. They reached for him, fingers stretching, and he turned slowly, his eyes locking hers through the glass. Time fractured. Sarah fell backwards, scraping her palms until they bled, running inside. Her door flew open, unlocked again. Inside, chaos, furniture rearranged in circles, walls etched with crayon eyes. And on her bed, Timmy, sitting cross-legged, grinning. Playtime, he said, his voice layered with an adult timbre. The onlookers want a story. She grabbed him. No, she tried. The boy dissolved into smoke, reforming on the other side of the room. Laughter echoed, not from a child, but from a chorus. Lena appeared in the doorway, eyes empty. We were alone, Sarah. Now we are whole. Panic ignited the escape. Sarah pushed past, stairs slippery as blood, bursting into the street. Headlights pierced the darkness. An idle car on the sidewalk. Driver's window down, a man. A familiar but wrong face. Need a ride? Harlan sent me. She ran, lungs burning, pines closing in. Branches scratched, whispering names. Her name, her mother's, echoes of echoes. Deeper into the forest, where the missing hiker had wandered. Moonlight splashed a clearing. A circle of stones, engraved with eyes. In the center, figures waited. Neighbors all around. Her face a mosaic. They turned as one. Join us, Harlan intoned, extending his hand. Sarah stumbled backward, roots entangling her ankles. But in the tree line, a gleam. Her phone dropped earlier. No, a new light. Headlights. Real, cutting through. A voice called. Sarah? Here. Not an echo, but solid. A woman stepping out of a truck. Robust. Familiar. Aunt Mara? From the old family photos, the one that had disappeared years ago. Relief battled with doubt. Was it salvation? Or the deepest lure yet? As Mara approached, hand outstretched, Sarah saw her eyes, reflecting not the moon, but the horrors of the clearing, and in them, her own face, smiling back. The truck's engine growled low, a restrained beast, while Mara, if it was indeed her, closed the distance with determined strides. Her boots crushed pine needles, scattering them like fragile bones, and the air around her carried the smell of motor oil and something sharper, like ozone before a storm. Sarah's breath came in uneven gasps, her back pressed against the rough bark of an ancient oak, its trunk etched with carvings that could be eyes or mere scars of long-forgotten lovers. The circle of neighbors surrounded her, their shapes blurring at the edges under the merciless gaze of the moon. Harlan's aged face melting into Lena's soft curves, Timmy's smile stretching impossibly wide. They didn't advance. They waited, patient as predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. Get in the truck, girl, Mara urged, her voice a deep drawl that pulled up half-buried memories. Sarah's aunt by marriage, or so the family lore went. A wild card who had married Uncle Ray in an impulsive Las Vegas ceremony, only to disappear from everyone after her accident at the mill in 2005. They're not done with you yet. Her hand remained outstretched, calloused palm facing up, nails chipped and with half-moons of dirt. In the beam of the headlights, Mara's face settled. Sharp cheekbones, a scar bisecting her left eyebrow like lightning, eyes the color of storm clouds. But they remained firm, without swirling voids, without hunger. Just worry, or was it the smartest mask? Sarah's mind was spinning, synapses firing alerts amidst the haze of adrenaline. Trust no one, the forum post echoed, Dot's words a mantra. However, the alternative was the circle, approaching with whispers that drifted like smoke. Family, stay. Her legs, heavy from running, propelled her forward in a jolt. She grabbed Mara's wrist, warm and real skin, and ran to the truck. The chorus of neighbors swelled. Echo, echo, but no chase came. Only laughter, fading as the passenger door slammed shut behind her. Mara revved the engine, tires spitting gravel as the Ford F-150 ripped from the clearing. Branches whipped against the windows like vengeful fingers, but the forest receded, swallowed by the black tape of the road. Sarah collapsed against the cracked vinyl seat, chest heaving, the medallion still clutched in her wrist like a talisman or a bomb. The cab smelled of fast food wrappers and old smoke, the dashboard cluttered with cassette tapes and a flashing GPS spitting directions into nothing. Who? How? Sarah gasped, words tumbling out. Aunt Mara? Is that really you? Mara's laugh was a bark, her white hands on her knuckles gripping the steering wheel. Last time I checked, though aunt sounds generous after all these years. I saw your taillights burning up the highway last week. I knew trouble was coming. She glanced sideways, her eyes narrowing. Eldridge gets under the skin fast. Harlan has a nose for fresh blood. The road unfolded beneath sodium lamps, the edges of Eldridge Hollow giving way to more scattered houses, cabins crouching like hermits, fields silvered by frost. Sarah poured it all out. The eyes, the scratches, the photo under the refrigerator, Lena's impossible name. Mara listened without interruption, chin steady, until Sarah faltered. And you? Where have you been? Uncle Ray. He said you just left. Mara's grip tightened, her knuckles paling. Ray deserved better. The mill took him, crushed under beams that shouldn't have fallen. But it wasn't an accident. Hollow curse, they call it. Echoes claiming what is owed. She fished a cigarette from her vest, lighting it with a Zippo that sparkled like judgment. I ran away, joined a crew up north. Lumberjacks, drifters, kept in touch with family. When I heard you were circling back to your mother's old land, she exhaled smoke, swirling toward the vent. I couldn't let history repeat itself. Sarah's mother, Ellen Klein, had grown up in Eldridge, fleeing at 18 for the bright lights of the city. Stories of crazy town folk, dismissed as backwoods gossip. Now those stories were scratching back. Whispers from aunts who sounded like sisters, neighbors who took more than just tools. The medallion, Sarah said, opening it. Mara's miniature face stared back at her next to a girl with Ellen's features. That's Mom, and you. But the verse, eternal echoes. What does it mean? Mara ripped it off, her eyes darkening. It means they mark you. It starts with stairs. It ends with replacement. Hollow was built on that. Crazy miners in isolation seeing duplicates in the dark. They started by inviting them inside. Now the whole damn place is infected. She tossed the medallion into the glove compartment, slamming it shut. Burn it afterward. For now we'll shelter at my house. Out of town, off-grid, safe. The truck veered onto a dirt track, rattling over ruts that rattled Sarah's teeth. Mara's cabin emerged from the shadows, a low-aged cedar A-frame, its chimney smoking lazily, its porch light a cautious beacon. Inside it was a survivalist's dream. Cans stacked like bricks, walls lined with maps tacked on with red thumbtacks, a wood-burning stove crackling defiantly against the cold. Mara brewed pitch-black coffee, shoving a mug into Sarah's hands. Eat. We'll plan later. Over jerky and stale crackers, Mara unpacked the lore. Echoes aren't ghosts. They're us. Fractured pieces left over when people get too lonely. They feed on eye contact, steal a look, take a piece. Harlan is the guardian. He's been here since the 70s collecting the lost. Lena? She was Ellen's friend. A duplicate of her mother, even the laugh. She fought, lost the boy to the forest. Now she's half broken, manipulating Timmy like a doll. Sarah's appetite soured. And me? Why now? Mara leaned in, her voice lowering. Blood calls. Ellen escaped, but the mark is in the bloodline. That medallion? Your mother gave it to me as a wedding gift. Warning, wrapped in silver. You've been looking, haven't you, at windows, faces? Guilt twisted. The balcony, Harlan's eyes, Lena's drawings. How do I stop this? Break the chain. Confront the source. Harlan's basement. That's where they accumulate. The stolen selves. Burn. You burn them. Mara's scar gleamed in the firelight. But it costs. The last one who tried? Me. Ray paid the price. The silence stretched, heavy as the night pressed against the windows. Sarah traced the maps, red tacks encircling Eldridge like wounds. Do we do this tonight? Mara shook her head. Dawn. They sleep then. But first, she pulled a backpack from under the sofa, opening it to reveal bottles of clear liquid, a flare gun, matches. Holy water is nonsense. This is kerosene, mixed with salt, an old miner's trick. Burns the clean echoes. Exhaustion, then collapsed. Sarah curled up on a cot beside the stove, dreams a mush of faces melting into hers. Mara kept watch, shotgun in her lap, humming a tune Sarah vaguely remembered from childhood holidays. Uncle Ray's favorite, Whiskey for My Johnny. The morning broke bloody, sun bleeding through the pines. They ate in silence, scrambled eggs on a camp stove, coffee refilled. Mara sketched the plan on a napkin, sneak into Whispering Pines through the alley, break down Harlan's back door, she knew the weak lock, go down to the basement. Eyes ahead, no peeking to the side. They sensed doubt. The drive back was tense, truck embracing shadows. Eldridge moved slowly, curtains rustling, dogs barking half-hearted alerts. At the building, they parked a block away, approaching on foot. The alley reeked of garbage and regret, trash can lids yawning like mouths. Sarah's key trembled in the lock. Her apartment first, then the penthouse. Inside, untouched since the previous night. Circles of intact furniture, chalk eyes on the faded but vigilant walls. Mara moved like a shadow, picking Harlan's lock with a wire. The door sighed open, the apartment dark and rancid. They crawled through. Living room photos now showing Sarah in each frame, her smiles empty. Kitchen counters with plates of uneaten pie, flies buzzing hymns. The basement door rose in the hallway, locked with a padlock but rusty, yielding to bolt cutters with a crack like bone breaking. Stairs descended into the abyss, air thickening to syrup, laced with earth and decay. Lanterns cut cones of light, revealing slippery concrete steps damp with moisture. Whispers began halfway there. Mara, back so soon? Did you bring the girl? Sarah's beam trembled, catching webs stretched like veils, furniture covered with sheets, chairs, beds, mirrors angled to infinity. The back opened onto a chamber, stone walls, veins of quartz that pulsed faintly, like veins. Center, a pit 6 feet wide, bordered by candles that flickered low. Inside, not earth but faces, hundreds pressed into the clay, marble glass eyes staring upward. Harlan's collection, some frescoes, a duplicate of Lena, mud stuck to her hair, of Timmy, a smile frozen in the middle of a laugh. Older ones crumbled at the edges, features eroded into anonymity, and at the edge of the pit, Harlan, unexpectedly, kneeling, hands plunged into the mud, pulling at strands of shadow that writhed like worms. He turned slowly, his face breaking in welcome. Family reunion, he scraped, his voice the chorus. Ellen's escape ends here. Mara raised the flare gun, thumb cocking. It ends with you, old man. But Harlan laughed, and the grave responded, faces animating, mouths gaping in silent screams, eyes locking onto Sarah. Pain lacerated her skull, visions flooding in, her life reenacted, stolen glances interspersed with echoes, her ending not hers, job loss, mimetic sabotage. She staggered, clutching her head. Make it stop! Mara fired. The flare arched, igniting kerosene sprayed before. Flames howled, devouring the grave in orange hunger. Harlan lunged, form stretching, but Mara twisted the rifle stock, cracking his jaw. He crumbled, dissolving to ashes as the fire spread, walls cracking like eggshells. They fled upstairs, smoke billowing, building groaning its death throes. Outside, flames licked windows, neighbors spilling into the street, not fleeing, but watching, faces limp like severed puppets. In the truck speeding away, Sarah gasped for air. Is it over? Mara's scar twitched. For now, but echoes linger. Check your mirrors, girl, and never look back. But as Eldridge shrank in the rearview mirror, Sarah saw him. A reflection in the side mirror, not hers. A girl waving from the tree line, eyes rolling. And beside her another truck, headlights flashing, following. Was Mara the key? Or the padlock she had just turned? The highway stretched like a scar across the landscape, asphalt bleeding on the horizon under a sky bruised by clouds that promised rain but delivered only taunt. Sarah's fingers dug into the armrest, the vinyl squeaking under her grip as the pursuing headlights swung in the mirror. Distant but insistent, a predator's gaze. Mara's chin was firm, her eyes alternating between road and reflection, her free hand drumming the gear shift in a rhythm that betrayed nerves she wouldn't verbalize. The air in the cab hung thick, laced with the acrid stench of smoke clinging to their clothes, a reminder of the pyre they left smoldering in the heart of Eldridge Hollow. Whispering Pines would be headlines at noon. Mysterious fire claims retiree's life, but the real story, the one of faces in the clay and eyes that took souls, would whisper in the silences of the survivors. "They're winning," Sarah murmured, her voice hoarse with smoke and screams. The truck's engine squealed in protest as Mara downshifted, pushing the old Ford harder. Pine trees whipped, a green blur scratching at the windows, and Sarah swore she saw shapes in the undergrowth. Elongated limbs, faces pressed against the bark, watching the chase with idle curiosity. Mara snorted, but conviction was lacking. Echoes don't give up easily. Harlan was just the caretaker. The grave is the root. We burned, yes, but roots spread. She opened the window, wind howling like an uninvited guest, ruffling her short hair. "Let's go north. My contact in Blackridge. Ex-miner knows the rights, conceal the mark properly." Sarah nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. The medallion burned in her pocket, a hot coal against her thigh. She intended to burn it with the rest, but habit, or something stickier, had stopped her. Rites like exorcism? Worse, confession. Mara's eyes met hers in the mirror, holding back a beat too long. You have to face what you looked at. Name the stolen pieces. Echoes thrive on denial. The miles ticked by in restless silence. Radio static hissing folklore between stations. Tales of doppelgangers in the Rockies. Towns where mirrors shattered on their own. Sarah's phone, resurrected from the glove compartment, buzzed with missed calls. Her sister, frantic voicemails piling on worry. "Call her," Mara said, "but keep it light. No hollow talk. They listen." Sarah dialed on speakerphone, heart pounding. "Sar? Oh my God, where are you? That town. The news is exploding. Fire, missing people." "I'm fine." Sarah cut in, her voice forced casual. "Road trip detour. Aunt Mara's with me. Surprise meeting." A pause, then relief flooded the line. They chatted about trivialities, weather, work, until Sarah shut down, the lie settling like ashes in her throat. Did she buy it? For now. Mara sped around a bend, the pursuer's lights flashing brighter. But blood knows. Blackridge emerged after 2 hours. A ghost town of mining, skeletal cranes rusting against mountains that crouched like judging gods. Mara's contact waited in a bar nestled on the outskirts, the broken pick, a neon sign flashing open like a liar's promise. He was a bear of a man named Gus, his face cratered by ancient explosions, his eyes milky with dust, but sharp as pickaxes. They huddled in a back booth, whiskey burning paths down their throats, while Gus traced maps with a scarred finger. "The veins of the hollow run deep," he thundered. "Fire burns the surface, but underneath, tunnels connect everything. Echoes burrow like moles." Her right was a tool bag, chalk for circles, salt for barriers, a black iron dagger engraved with runes that looked like averted eyes. "Midnight at the old well. You draw the circle, girl. Call out the names. They come crawling." Back at Gus's cabin, a tin-roofed shack smelling of damp earth and regret, they prepared. Sarah stripped down to the basics, chalk dust clinging to her skin as she scribbled the circle on the floor. Interlocking eyes, spirals that made her dizzy. Mara loaded the flare gun again, oiled shotgun. You see them, you name them. Mother, friend, me. The dagger cuts the knot. Midnight rang out from a distant clock tower, wind moaning through cracks. Sarah stepped into the circle, salt crunching underfoot, heavy dagger in her palm. Gus sang softly, gaucho gutturals that twisted the air, and the room darkened, shadows accumulating like ink. Whispers began, familiar, insidious. "Sarah, look." The first came as Lena, apron-clad, smiling, oatmeal spoon in hand. "Join the family." Sarah's throat tightened, her mother's laughter in that voice. "Shadow of Ellen," she gasped, cutting the dagger. The form screamed, dissolving into mist that burned her nostrils. Timmy next, blocks falling from tiny fists. "Play, new friend." Heart writhing, perverted innocence. "Lost boy," she named blade-biting air. Gone. Harlan crawled, chest unraveling into threads. Thieves united. Rage rose. Thief of peace. Guardian of lies. The cut echoed damply, but they multiplied. Faces from her past. Glances stolen inadvertently. College classmate with the crooked smile. Study buddy. Ex-boyfriend. Soft eyes. Echo of a lover. Even her sister, voice cracking. Wrong blood. Each cut emptied her. Visions flashing. Lives unlived, pieces plundered in idle gazes. The circle cracked under assault, salt spreading. Mara fired flares, igniting specters that howled in retreat. Gus's chance failed, blood running from his nose. Then the big one. A woman, Ellen's twin but twisted, empty, swirling eyes. My daughter, not mother. The echo that generated the current. Sarah froze, dagger loose. You're the first. The form attacked, hands like roots burying in her chest. Pain blossomed, memories not hers flooding in. Ellen's escape, terror in the pines, the medallion forged in despair. I made you to stay, the echo cried, but you look away. No, Sarah pushed, blade sinking true. The form shattered, glass eyes raining shards. The room exhaled, shadows fleeing to corners. Dawn found them destroyed, Gus bandaged, Mara tending to burns. Sarah huddled in the remains of the circle, medallion open in her lap. Portraits faded to white. Is it over? She whispered. Gus grunted. Roots pruned, but look wrong, they grow back. Mara helped her to her feet, grip firm. We moved, south, coast, fresh eyes. They buried the tools in the pit, truck roaring to life. The pursuing lights, gone at the end of the right, or so Sarah hoped. Highway again, sun gilding the dashboard. Conversation turned light, future plans, art gigs for Sarah, return to firewood for Mara, normalcy, fragile as an eggshell. But at a gas station stop, Sarah caught the cashier's gaze lingering, too experienced. The pump handle clicked, and in the rainbow glow of the fuel, a reflection flickered. Her face, but eyes. Caught? She blinked away, climbing up. Mara looked at her. Are you okay? Yes. A lie. Sweet as pie. Miles later, a sign. Welcome to Seaview. Ocean's embrace. Beaches ahead. Waves to drown out whispers. But as they crested the hill, Sarah saw a row of beach houses, windows twinkling. And on the porch of the first, a figure waving. A woman, silver hair, wide smile. Mara braked slowly. Neighborly welcome, she murmured. Sarah's skin crawled. Was it over? Or had the road only brought them back home? The salty air of Seaview hit like a slap, carrying brine and the faint rot of seaweed stranded on beaches that gnawed at the edge of the continent. Beach houses lined up like sentinels, wooden facades painted in optimistic pastels, blues and yellows that mocked the turbulent gray of the Pacific beyond. Sarah's window was open, wind tangling her hair as Mara cruised down the coastal road, tires buzzing over patched potholes in reluctant asphalt. The waving figure on the porch settled into an older woman, arms on her hips, apron billowing like a flag of surrender. Her smile stretched wide, teeth gleaming abnormally white. And as the truck slowed, she called out, "Fresh catch. Room for two in the seagull's nest?" Mara killed the engine, cab falling silent save for the cries of the seagulls. Harsh, accusatory. Coincidence, she said, but her hand hovered near the shotgun tucked between the seats. Sarah's pulse quickened, the absence of the medallion a ghostly weight. She'd thrown it into the woods back in Black Ridge, an unceremonious ritual. Yet here, in this post town, the itch returned, eyes on her back, whispers in the waves. The woman approached, light steps on the gravel, a basket of lemons swinging from one arm. Up close, she was in her early 60s, skin tanned to leather but smooth at the edges, eyes crinkling with what seemed genuine joy. Name's Evie. I manage the rentals. I saw your plates. Outsiders, huh? Relatives of Harlan's? The name hit like ice water. Sarah stiffened. Mara's gaze was calm. No relatives, Mara replied, her voice even. Just passing through. We need a night or two. Quiet place. Evie's laughter tinkled, bright wind chimes. Quiet is what we do best. Follow me. She led them to the seagull's nest, a 2-story cabin with gingerbread garnishes, a creaky porch swing invitingly. Inside it breathed welcome. Fresh linens, tinkling shell mobiles, a kitchen stocked with local jams. But Sarah's eyes lingered on the hallway mirror, her reflection lagped, lips moving half a second slowly. A blink. Normal. They settled in, Sarah claiming the attic with its skylight overlooking stars that seemed too close, Mara bunkishing below with the shotgun under the bed. Dinner was courtesy of Evie. Steaming seafood chowder, warm, crusty bread. Over bowls on the marked oak table, conversation flowed easily. Seaview's charms, bubbling tidal pools, lighthouse tours, its shadows, fog that swallowed fishermen whole. Evie lingered, eyes drifting to Sarah. You look familiar, dear. An artist? Eyes like that, they see everything. Sarah forced a smile, stirring soup that had a slight taste of salt and regret. Graphic design, nothing special, but Evie's gaze lingered, probing, until Mara cleared her throat. Long day, thanks for the feast. Evie stood collecting bowls with fluid grace. Anytime. Breakfast at dawn, pancakes if you wake up. Neighbors take care of things here. The door closed softly behind her, leaving echoes. The night deepened, waves a relentless murmur. Sarah lay awake, skylight framing constellations that twisted like knots. Sleep came restlessly, dreams of graves and faces. Harlan's deep voice singing lullabies. A thud shook her from below. Crawling to the stairs, she peeked. Mara pacing back and forth, phone to her ear, voice low. Yes, it's her. The mark is faint but moving. Sea view? Worse than hollow. Tunnels beneath the dunes. Ancient smugglers' routes. Echoes love the dark. Sarah went downstairs, planks creaking with betrayal. Mara put away the phone. Gus says the ritual bought time, not peace. We need a deeper cut. Find the source well. Seaview was built on one. Dawn, Sarah echoed, sinking into the sofa. Evie mentioned the lighthouse. Old, abandoned. Maybe. Mara nodded. Tomorrow. For now, rest. But as Sarah climbed back upstairs, a shadow floated through the skylight. Not a cloud, but a form. Tall, angular, watching. The morning broke hazy, mist rolling like amnesia. Evie's pancakes waited on the porch. Golden stacks, syrup pooling amber. She joined them, coffee in hand, light chatter. Lighthouse tour today? I'll lead. Secrets in the stones, ghosts of shipwrecks, lost lovers. Her eyes on Sarah again, lingering. You'd fit in well, darling. Eyes that see. They declined. Tour later, watching her back away down the path, basket swaying. The beach beckoned then, fresh, compacted sand, waves gnawing at bones of driftwood. Mara searched dunes, footprints fading quickly in the tide. Sarah wandered through tidal pools, starfish pulsing like hearts, crabs digging up secrets. But in a deeper basin, a gleam, a silvery current, half buried. She fished it out, a medallion, twin of the burnt one. Inside, white but warm as if recently worn. Pulse quickening, she stuffed it in her pocket, scanning. Footprints circled the pool. Not hers, small and deliberate. Child-sized, an echo of Timmy. Shaking away, she reached Mara, who pointed out to sea. The lighthouse, a short tower on a rocky promontory, paint peeling to bone white. It's our entrance. Base tunnels. Smugglers hid rum, then worse. Afternoon mist thickened as they approached. The path slippery with kelp. The door hung ajar, iron hinges weeping rust. Inside, spiral stairs climbed to a lantern room empty, save for pigeon droppings and rhyming glass of salt. Below, a trapdoor in the floor, locked, but Mara made short work of it. They descended into damp darkness, lanterns casting churning puddles. Tunnels branched out, earthen walls reinforced with tar-black wood, air heavy with mold and memory. Hours blurred in the labyrinth, dead ends scribbled with graffiti, eyes spirals, hastily scratched names. Ellen was here. Sarah's blood ran cold. Deeper, voices echoed. Not whispers, but songs. Layered harmonies of women and waves. They emerged in a cavern. Veined walls of salt crystal. A well in the center. Brackish water licking. Its surface rippling with faces below. Eternal echoes. Figures waited. Evie on the edge, apron exchanged for a dress of seaweed threads flanked by duplicates. Harlan's aged relatives. Lena's gentle relatives. All with Sarah's eyes set in. Home, cooed Evie. The well gave birth to us. Ships' gazes, lost souls staring at the shore. We keep the city fed. Mara raised her shotgun. Fed on lies. Time to drain. But Evie smiled, and the well responded. Water rising, tentacles of liquid shadow entangling legs. Sarah dodged. Right dagger gripped firmly. Visions assaulted. Seaview's history unfolding. Smugglers gazing into mirrors for luck, spawning mimics claiming crews. Evie, first echo, stealing glances from drowning lovers. Join the tide, she urged, or drown yourself. Fight erupted. Mara's blasts shattering shadows, Sarah's dagger cutting tentacles that reformed slippery. Evie attacked, face splitting to reveal emptiness. Your mother's gaze made me strong. Blade found flesh, not flesh but salt. Evie crumbling into crystals that glowed damp. The well howled, sucking in air, faces bubbling in foam. Sarah staggered to the edge, pulled by unseen hands. Mara pulled her back, but a tentacle wrapped around her ankle, cold, insistent. "Go!" Mara shouted, flare arching toward the depths. Fire bloomed underwater, steam hissing fury, the well collapsing upon itself with a groan that shook the earth. They fled, tunnels flooding behind, bursting into the lighthouse as waves reclaimed the base. Fog lifted, sun piercing through, pristine sea view below. Back at the gull's nest, Evie gone, empty porch, basket overturned. They packed hurriedly, truck loaded. "Next town?" Sarah asked, medallion crushed under tire. Mara started the engine. Inland, mountains, no water, no wells. But as they drove away, rearview mirror showed. A girl on the beach, waving, eyes darting. Not Sarah's, someone else's. And the shadow of the truck on the road? It stretched long, fingers reaching for the next gaze. Mountains rose like the spine of some ancient beast, jagged peaks scratching a sky that bled orange as the sun dipped low, painting the valleys in fire and shadow. The truck labored up curves, the engine protesting the incline, gears grinding like teeth on bone. Sarah's body ached from the tightness of the pit, bruises blooming purple on her calves, salt crystals lingering in her pores like accusations. Mara drove with one hand, the other tending to a cut on her forearm from a tentacle whip, wrapped in a cloth that oozed red. Seaview shrank behind them, a blur on the shore, but its echoes clung. The ghostly weight of the medallion, Evie's tinkling laughter in the howling wind. They stopped once at a roadside diner for gas and grease, hamburgers that sat like rocks, coffee bitter as regret. The waitress stared, eyes too wide, but said nothing. Stares now seemed like theft, each stranger a potential thief. "Blackstone Pass," Mara announced, gesturing to a faded sign. "Old silver town, dry as dust. Echoes hate the arid." Her voice was firm, but fatigue carved deeper lines, a scar contracting like a live wire. Sarah rested her head against the window, cool glass against her feverish skin. "How many more?" "Hollow Seaview is chasing." Mara's laugh was hollow. "Until you stop looking. Right in the mountains. Thin air, sharp truths. Enfrin your central echo. Yours." Night fell abruptly, stars piercing velvety darkness. They camped off the trail, fire pit surrounded by rocks, tent hastily pitched. Flames crackled, Mara roasting marshmallows on carved sticks, a childlike gesture amidst the gloom. "Remember Ray? He used to do this. He told stories of mine spirits, pickaxes swinging wildly, silver veins turning into mirrors." Sarah chewed on sticky sweetness, heat chasing cold. "Has he ever seen them?" Mara's eyes reflected fire. "Once, he looked wrong into the pit. He came back changed, laughing at his own jokes a beat behind. I burned the mirrors. Too late." Silence stretched, embers crackling. "Your mother warned me before she left." Eyes steel, Mara. "Keep yours safe." Sleep came in spasms, the tent canvas crackling in bursts. Dreams, sand pits now, buried faces gasping. A hand shook her before dawn. Mara, urgently. Footprints, around the camp. Small footprints. Sarah stood up suddenly, flashlight shedding light. Loops in the earth, childlike but deep, encircling the ashes of the fire. Timmy's? Or new ones? They dismantled the camp quickly, truck devouring miles to Blackstone. The city was a skeleton. Boarded up saloons, collapsed mine heads, streets swirling with dancing dust. The hermit waited in the rehearsal office, a shack with rusty scales. Silas's name, eyes sunken like wells, beard white as quartz. He brewed tea from pine needles, acrid and warning. "Dry echoes," he hissed, mapping veins on yellowed paper. Born of greed, miners staring at ore, seeing rich duplicates. They thrive on desire. Your desire, girl. What did you look to have? Sarah hesitated. Escape. Normalcy. Silas nodded. That's the central point. Right in the devil's mouth. A fissure up there. No water, no salt. Only air and confession. Speak of your thefts. Burn the desire. They trekked at midday. The sun a hammer, the air thinning to a razor's edge. The mouth was a gash in the granite, wind whistling lament through lips of stone. Silas didn't scribble a circle, useless chalk on the rock, but carved runes with a knife, a tip of blood. Stay in the throat. Name the glances. Wind carries them away. Sarah stepped into the crevice, walls closing like jaws. wind whipping confession from her lungs. I looked at her, for lost love. X's face, stolen in a coffee-colored glance. Wind howled, carrying the echo, his form materializing, pleading. She named it, crushed against rock. I looked at him for safety. Harlan, wide smile, dissolved in a gust. One by one, thefts of loneliness, mirrors of ambition. The central one came last. Herself, young, staring at her mother's dressing table, for who I could be. The echo cried, her twin, radiant. You stole me first. Blade unused. Words sufficed. Wind roared, echo shattering into swirling dust devils that spiraled away. Descent brought clarity, lungs burning sweet. Silas smiled, missing teeth. Ardo cleans, for the most part. Mara patted his shoulder. South again. Desert now. No peaks, no pass. But in the truck, a note under the wiper. Looked back. E. Written by Evie. Playful. Footprints in the dust. Small. Circling. The desert waited, sand shifting. But in the rearview mirror, mountains watched, eyes on the clouds. And the rumble of the truck? A soft laugh echoed. The desert bloomed brutally under a sun that burned mercilessly. Dunes undulating like muscle under stretched skin. The horizon a tremor of heat that lied about water. The truck cab baked, AC squeaking defiantly, sand dripping fenders like lead weights. Sarah's skin itched under layers of dust. The catharsis of the mountain rite already fading to an itch. The howl of the wind lingering in her ears. Confessions scattered, but perhaps seeds. Mara drove half-closed, map spread across the dashboard, veins of red pen tracing streams to Haven Rock, a town carved into canyon walls, built by prospectors chasing fool's gold in dry riverbeds. Last resistance, Mara said, her voice like sandpaper. Echoes wither at the edge. They can't mirror what is sterile. Sarah traced the E of the note on her thigh, Evie's curve mocking. Found in Blackstone, it had vanished from her pocket on the trail. Stolen, or an illusion. Tiny footprints circled the truck that night, but dawn erased them, leaving only swirls sculpted by the wind. What if it's not the place? Sarah ventured. Wind through her window trickling words. What if it's me, looking inward? Mara's scar pulled tight. Then the famous one, the rite in Haven Rock, fire ants and song, old Paiute way. Twilight painted crimson canyons as they descended. Haven Rock, a handful of adobe shacks huddled in a bend. Riverbed cracked like old lips. The seer lived in a kiva well house, door a blanket, woven yucca. Inside, cool enclosed air, walls frescoed with spirals that swirled in the lantern's glow. Nia was ancient, eyes milky veils but hands steady as she guided Sarah to a rush rug. Sit, thief of glances, she scraped, voice dust and smoke. Mara hovered, rifle exchanged for a bag of herbs. Nia's rite was intimate. Ants in a clay bowl, red fury writhing. Chants in a tongue that buzzed bones. Echoes are unborn desires, she explained, grinding sage. You looked at them, gave birth. Now, invite them home, burn the cord. Ants crawled up Sarah's arms, bites like accusations, while Nia jealously breathed the air. Name the desire. Belonging, Sarah breathed. Ants swarmed, visions biting. Welcome from the hollow, tide of sea view, mountain peaks. Echoes swarmed. Harlan, Evie, her twin, half-formed shapes, pleading. Cut. Nia's knife, flint edge, pinched palm, blood dripping onto ants that feasted, frenzy building. Echoes screamed, dissolving into smoke that ants devoured. Pain peaked, Sarah arching, then release. Clean, hollow. Nia bandaged, milky eyes piercing. Desire is gray, but gray blows. Save the spark. They camped in the canyon, stars a vault above. Fire low, Mara sharing jerky. Ray hated desserts, said they stared back. Sarah laughed, first real laugh in weeks. Dawn brought clarity, no footprints, memory of the faint note. South to valleys, green creeping back. But at the gas station at the crossroads, chrome from the pump reflected, a girl waving from the dunes, empty eyes. Sarah blinked. Gone. Mara. I saw. A truck roared ahead, valleys unfolded fertile, orchards heavy with fruit that mocked hunger. Verdant. Mara named the next town, vines draping trellises like veils. Growth buries echoes, roots too deep for mirrors. But the mayor of Verdant greeted her at the hostel, Lena's face, gentle. Welcome home. The cycle turned again. The vines of verdant strangled more than trellises, weaving through the veins of the town, ivy-covered gazebos and arches that arched like cages over cobblestone paths. The air hung sweet with overripe grapes and the undertones of yeast, a wine that turned to vinegar in the heat. Sarah's boots clung to sidewalks softened by the summer's breath, each step pulling like the ground reluctantly letting go. The inn, Mara's choice, a sprawling Victorian with gables that looked like ruffles, stood in the heart of the square, its sign, the trellis rest, swaying lazily in the breeze. The mayor, an Elias Green, had met them at the gate, mid-40, suit rumpled like forgotten bedclothes, face a softer echo of Lena's. Round cheeks, eyes that had wrinkled but lacked warmth. "Welcome home," he'd said, handshake lingering, palm damp. Sarah's skin crawled. Mara's nod was short, hand brushing the knife against her belt. Rooms were assigned. Sarah's corner suite with bay windows overlooking the vineyard, heavy damask curtains that muffled the hum of the world. She unpacked minimally, jeans, sketchbook, Nia's flint knife tucked under the pillow like a lover's promise, dinner in the hostel conservatory, a long table laden with plates of cheese, bread, and bottles of local red wine that gleamed blood dark. Elias presided, toasting new roots, his gaze on Sarah like a winemaker on grapes, assessing ripeness. Locals filled seats, a baker with Harlan's deep laugh, a seamstress stitching together Evie's clinking sounds and gossip. Whispers wove beneath the clinking of glasses. "She looks like Ellen. The brand is fresh." Mara drank little, her eyes scanning exits. "Charming," she murmured after the meal, as they went upstairs. "Too charming. Verdant is old. Vineyards fed on blood, they say. Workers have vanished into cellars, echoes fermenting in barrels." Sarah locked the door, vine tentacles tapping against the glass like fingers. "Mayor, Lena's ghost? Worse, a mixture. Echoes hybridize in abundance. They take the exuberant, twist it." Mara unrolled a borrowed map, fingers tracing ley lines to the core of the winery. "Tomorrow, the barrel room. The verdant well is below. Barrels of essence, stolen gazes distilled." Sleep eluded her. The rustling of vines, a lullaby of scratches. Dreams. Grapes bursting into eyes, juice running red with faces. Dawn brought Elias to the door. Basket of pastries. "Harvest tour? See how we thrive." His smile, soft like Lena's, edge like Harlan's. They joined, truck following caravan of golf carts through rows of heavy vines with bunches black as bruises. Elias narrated, rich soils of ancient hands, cellars, scissors for eternal youth, workers, shadowed figures, pruned with shears that squeaked like shears on destiny. Sarah's sketchbook filled up, vines as veins, grapes as eyes. A glance met a pruner, his face that of her ex, fleeting. A blink, gone. The winery rose, stone arches, bandaged iron doors. Barrel room descended in levels, air thick with oak and mold, barrels rising like monoliths, bandaged iron weeping condensation. Elias tapped one, mouthpiece bursting with a sigh. "Our best vintage. Taste the story." Ruby-colored liquid poured, aroma of berries and regret. Sarah sipped, heat spreading, visions flashing. Her life distilled, moments siphoned. Childhood picnics, first kiss, all with eyes watching from the edge. Mara turned her glass away. Allergy. Elias's wrinkle deepened. Pity. The tour ended, but they lingered, slipping into sub-levels as shadows lengthened. Depths of the cellar. Catacombs of barrels labeled by year. Eco 1892. Look 1947. The well in the center. Not water, but wine as dark as emptiness. Its surface swirling with submerged faces. Bubbles rising like sighs. Heart of verdant, Elias intoned. Emerging from the shadows, suit exchanged for robes woven from vine thread. Locals flanked, faces shifting. Baker to Timmy, seamstress to Evie. "Prosper with us," he urged. Looks make the bouquet. The struggle fermented slowly. Mara's knife flashing, cutting tentacles that whipped from barrels. Sarah's thread biting wood, staves shattering, wine gushing to flood ankles. Sticky, alive, faces in the stream nibbling at heels. Elias attacked, forms swelling with stolen selves. Voice chorus. "Ellen fermented here. Her gaze our harvest." Sarah cut, blade singing through pulp. Stolen harvest ends now. Barrel after barrel broken, echoes pouring in laments, well overflowing in crimson tide that scaled walls. They emerged gasping, winery groaning collapse. Verdant Square waited, vines withering, places soft as bark, mare dissolving to pulp underfoot. Truck fled to plains, cloud of funeral dust. Plains nearby, Mara gasped. Flat, open, no depths. But in the side mirror, grapes hung from the rearview mirror, eyes in the skins. And the end of the road? It curved, calling back. Plains unfolded endlessly, golden waves of grass bending to wines that carried the scent of turned earth and distant fermenting thunder. The truck cut through a straight line, the horizon unchanged, a ribbon coiled in infinity. Sarah's hands trembled on the water bottle, condensation slippery like a memory of wine, a vintage of verdant still sour on her tongue, screams of echoes resounding on her wrist. Mara drove silently, a fresh bandage on her arm, her eyes fixed on the road but straying to mirrors where grapes, no, tricks of light, had hung moments before. Plains were supposed to break the cycle. No wells, no tunnels, no vines to hide. Just sky and soil, vast enough to swallow secrets. Flat earth, Mara broke the silence. Echoes hate exposure, no place to fold back. The map marked Prairie Vale, a crossroads town of silos and peat houses, founded by seed plowers who stared at clouds for too long, generating sky mimics that stole storms. Prairie Vale greeted the crowd with windmills creaking hymns, street strips of earth flanked by shops with false facades. The Vale Hostel was a low bunker, owned by a thin woman named Tess. Face a blank slate, no echoes yet. Cheap rooms, she trailed off, keys jingling. Beware the skies, they bring rain or worse. Sarah's room overlooked fields, window propped up with brick against gusts. Unpacked, block full of sketches of plains, grass for hair, clouds for eyes. Communal dinner, potluck in the hostel's common room, beans and cornbread. Locals swirling threads of dust bowls and devilish winds. Tess poured coffee, eyes on Sarah. New? Gazes carry far here. Mara looked away, but night brought the price of the right. Sarah feverish, dreams of skies cracking into rain of faces. Bangs on the window, wind, or knocks. Peering, she saw nothing but wildly spinning stars. At dawn, Tess hit the right note. Storm coming. Shelter in the old school. Bells ring warnings. Mara agreed. Plains rights needed open air, but shelter first. The school was a relic. Silent tower bell. Desks marked with initials. Locals gathered as thunder rumbled. Tess leading chants. Plains gospel. Hands clapping rhythm to ward off sky thieves. Sarah joined in, thin voice, but the bell rang uncalled. Deep, resonant. Clouds churned, funnel forming in the distance, tornado's finger pointing. They're coming, Tess whispered. Looks to the skies, echoes in the vortex. Chaos, howling winds, school trembling, doors banging open as if to reveal figures in the burst. Cloud, Harlan's faces, Evie's, swirling. Locals armed with pitchforks. Tess with a conch shell blowing low notes that scattered wisps. Sarah and Mara fought flank, knife and shotgun, cutting vapors that reformed biting. The funnel approached. Core a gaping maw of eyes, stolen gazes from farmers' prayers, city dwellers' desires. Join the dance, it roared, its voice bursting. Mara fired salt cartridges, Sarah chanting Naya's words, wind whipping blood from palms. Tess blew harder, bell clanging fury. Funnel bucked, spitting echoes. Its twin, reaching out. See me? I see, Sarah cried, cutting through the sky. Vortex shattered, rain whipping blessing, echoes dissolving into mist. Clean plains, locals waving respect. Vale holds, Tess said. For now, truck to nearby forests, named Mara. Trees hide, but roots anchor. But as they drove, clouds parted, face blinking, waving. And the wind? It whispered. Look up, forests closed in densely, canopies weaving a green roof over trails that twisted like veins, sunlight dangling into mosaics on mossy floors. The truck bounced over roots. Undergrowth scratching panels, engine roar muffled to a growl. Sarah's fever broke in the shade, sweat cooling to sticky relief. But the itch persisted, a tingling in the nape of her neck, as if leaves held eyes. Mara navigated by compass, map rolled up. Drift from Sylvan, she named the woodland town. Log cabins and hollow oaks, descendants of druids who bound echoes with bark and blood. Sylvan's drift breathed ancient air, thick with pine and soil. paths lit by birch bark lanterns. The Drift Lodge welcomed a bearded giant named Thorn, face unreadable, axe at his hip, with steaming stew, innkeeper. Roots run deep, he thundered. Echoes entwined themselves in them. Sarah's cabin overlooked a clearing, windows closed against the night. Sketches now, trees as torsos, branches reaching for arms, dinner around the fire pit, venison and stories, Thorn carving runes in wood, glimpses in the wood. Lumberjacks saw duplicates in stumps, took them as kin. Mara searched, returning with shavings of bark. Right in the oak heart, tie the central one with sap and vow. Night fell velvet, owls howling judgment. Sarah dreamed roots burying skin, faces in knots. A snap outside, deer, peering, tall silhouette, Harlan's curvature. At dawn, Thorn gathered. Circle in the clearing, vast heart oak, trunk marked with spirals. Vote without looking, he intoned, bucket of sap steaming. Locals beat, Sarah stepping on the trunk, knife pinching bark and palm. Sap mixed with blood painted on the chest. Hot, sticky. I vote anchored, she breathed. Echoes stirred, undergrowth shapes, vine limbs, eyes in leaves. Thorn's axe swung, cutting. Locals singing a central rose. Its reflection, bark skin. Looking for strength, Sarah voted. Sap burning true vote. Echo crumbled to compost. Forest exhaled, Thorn waving. Safe drift. Toward nearby tundra, Mara. Cold freezes duplicates. But in the rearview mirror, oaks waved branches, fingers. And the path? It wound. Green. The tundra stretched white and unforgiving. A crust of ice cracking beneath tires. The wind a blade that carved frosted faces. Sarah huddled in wool, her breath ragged, a sap scar itching beneath her sweater. Mara pushed north, compass needle trembling. Frosthaven, she said. Ice locks echoes. Mirrors crack. Frosthaven was igloos and outposts. Veils of dancing aurora. The fort was a dome of compacted snow. An Inuk elder named Kira. Eyes like polished jet. Cold kills desire, she signaled. Gloved hands. Right in the aurora glow. Circle of snow, walrus ivory knives. Sarah carved a heart, blood-freezing beads. Icy echoes, fragile shapes shattering beneath boot. Central, frozen twin. Look for warmth. Shatter. South now. Mara. Cycle breaks at the source. But the ice reflected. A girl waving. Home, the road called. And the final look? In the mirror. Herself, smiling genuinely.